Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local.
Okay, and then I think David, you had another local story.
Very unrelated,
about,
but yeah. So unfortunately, Greg, there's no way for you to segue. But I did find it a pretty fascinating story and a great piece of marketing, actually, from my local veterinarian, Northwest Neighborhood Vet on Northwest Thurman in Portland. So their most recent, I would say, roughly monthly newsletter just highlighted I think a totally underreported, at least I've not seen it, reported story of COVID. I think everybody has probably seen the fact that, all of these, dogs and cats and everything else got adopted over COVID because people were stuck at home. And they needed a companion and blah, 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 blah. It was a great time to do that. And isn't this such a feel-good story? The flip side of that is, now that there's so many more pets out there, the shortage of veterinarians and clinical facilities, hospital facilities for pets is overwhelming. Veterinarians have been one of the highest suicide rate professions for a very long time. And the last year has probably only exacerbated the burnout and the emotional toll that they must have experienced. And so now, in addition to Delta, causing a shortage of ICU beds for humans, COVID has also caused a shortage of all kinds of care facilities and caregivers for these pets. And I thought that was really fascinating, and also highlighting a really great local business newsletter that I don't think, take a ton of time to put together. If I think we'll link to it in our own newsletter. It's fairly basic in terms of its layout and doesn't do a lot of best practice things such as call to action above the fold. Really mobile. It's not particularly mobile friendly, but it's a really strong piece of content marketing that helps me empathize with a local business. And as a result, I actually had forgotten to get medication for our dog and said, hey, can I schedule a contactless pickup for this in the next couple of days? So.
Well, what's great about it, I mean, the substance is kind of horrible about the shortage of beds and facilities, and the suicide piece of it is terrible. But what's great about it is that it delivers what local businesses are good at, which is sort of the human side of this business interaction. Here's a person and here's a human story, and that enables you to really identify and empathize with the business and makes you a more loyal customer in theory, as opposed to like a corporate. You wouldn't get that from a corporate pet chain, right? I mean, in all likelihood, they wouldn't give you that same
right.
information.
And you wouldn't really. I mean, it's not the same thing as the electronics equivalent would be like, Best Buy saying, our Geek Squad is overwhelmed. Like, you don't have the same level of empathy, I think, for unfortunately in some cases for sort of corporate employees. So
it's interesting to speculate whether this bubble in pet ownership is kind of like a post-World War II baby boom that will sort of just work its way through, or whether it is a more permanent change to the whole business environment, and thus, will have to be dealt with over a number of years with winners and losers in some form or another, like many industries.
Right. Well, I think, the work from home or hybrid working situation, I don't think is going away anytime soon, even if COVID does subside. So I think that could be a positive, a long-term positive in terms of the number of pets who find homes. But there was the flip side of that is that there have been reports of people taking their COVID pets back to the shelter, which is truly awful. So
awful for the pet.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious
because they're going
back to work. Yeah. I'll see if I can find one of those links to share in the newsletter as well.
That's incredibly selfish.
Yeah. Pet ownership is
hard, but it's totally worth it. Highly recommend.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you're going to do it, you got to do it. It's like having a child. So there's no backing out.
But I think people don't realize the amount of responsibility, the amount of emotional responsibility and logistical responsibility. Like we have a dog that we got 5 years ago. I had pets growing up, but we got a dog 5 years ago, and now we have a cat that was a COVID pet. And we used to be able to sort of board the dog or give the dog to a neighbor that had other dogs. And now with the two pets, the idea of vacations is almost an impossible impossible thing. We have to get somebody to come in and sit for the cat, and it's challenging.
But well worth it. We're going to end on a positive note. So
but we're not.
I know. Before we turn it over to you,
we can come. Yeah, that's before the commercial break. So there are always a lot of interesting stories. One of the most interesting stories, which I'll digress for a moment, that I didn't write about was this outdoor furniture company. I linked to it, but I didn't write a piece about it. Called Outer. And what they've done it's a direct-to-consumer brand, but what they've done in order to create a physical presence is that they've turned their buyers into showrooms, right? They've created incentives for their local buyers, people in communities, to invite other people into their homes to see this outdoor furniture, which I think is just super interesting. Sort of like an Airbnb style approach to physical stores. It's super creative, super interesting. I wanted to write about that, but I didn't. Maybe I'll do something like that later. But anyway, that was fascinating.
Is it kind of like the home sale thing, but it's just a fixed location as opposed
No. So you buy the furniture, right? You buy this company's furniture, and then I don't know what the particular business relationship is, or the what they give you in exchange,
a loyalty fee or referral fee or something. Yeah,
something. Yeah. So you get. I'm sure it's in the original piece. So you
invite friends into your house.
You make your house available to people in your community, maybe selectively, maybe for a period of time, and they come in and they chat with you and look at the furniture and say, "Oh, what do you think of it?" And so it's both a physical store presence and a word of mouth experience at the same time, which is pretty interesting, and it has more credibility than an in-store sales rep. I just thought that was a really creative, interesting direct-to-consumer,
and eliminates the need for
store.
Leasing real estate.
Yeah, true. It doesn't work that well with Casper beds.
No.
Yeah, come into my house and sleep on my bed.
Try my bed. It's really comfortable.
All right. Well, Casper actually has physical distributors. Okay, here's...
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.